Hey there, welcome back to SureFire Live. Thanks for joining me. I've been away for a couple of weeks. I had some guest hosts that took over the show or tried to anyway. It's kind of a funny little thing to put this on, but thank you for joining us tonight. As you know, this is a two-way conversation, and I want to have plenty of comments and things to talk about and get people's different perspective on this topic. I think is a very highly personal one, and it means different things to different people. And I want to talk about what success looks like for you, what it looks like for me, my guests, what we think about it, and also what you think about it. So, first comment coming in, I got a welcome back. For some reason, it says Facebook user. It doesn't say who that is, but welcome. Thank you for having me back. I went on a scuba diving trip for a couple of weeks. Actually, it wasn't planned for a couple of weeks initially, and then certain things happened, and we went on a scuba diving trip to Belize. And if you follow me, I put quite a few pictures on there. One of my guests tonight is Jim Brewer, and he went with me for week one, and we're going to bring him from backstage in just a minute. But some people watching my Facebook post said, "Man, that looks awesome," and some people said, "Man, that looks like a total nightmare. Hell no." Well, that's exactly what success looks like to most people, right? You might have been watching what we were doing to say, "Man, I want to do that. I want to be like that. I want to learn that. I want to go through that." And there's a whole group of other people say, "Not for me. No way. I'd rather do 1,000 other things than what you're doing. Good for you, but my definition of fun and success is something else." And I thought it was just a good topic for tonight because what's it mean to you is the most important thing. I got a message here from Chad Murray. Says, "Hi, Aquaman." And my ears are still full of water. I dove like 30 dives, and I still cannot clear some of my ears. So with that, thank you guys for joining us. We got a good little group back, and we want to talk success and talk business. So with that, I'm going to bring on my guests, Alan Rush and Jim Brewer, my diving partner. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Hey, I'm good. Fun to be here.
I want to formally apologize for a tire, right? Even though, hey, how about them Titans last night?
How about the Titans?
I was unprepared. I'm on the road as a shocker, right? And I had it was either this or wear chimney sweep garb. So we went.
Well, speaking of success, Titans won a big Monday night game against the Bills last night. If you watch it, we are fans, and that was a lot of fun. And Jim was having a little bit of a connection issue. He's come to us on his phone, but I think you still have a little bit of the same connection. It's a little blurry. I know it's clear on your side, but we can still hear you just fine. But the reason I asked both of these guys to come on board is, one, they're partners with me in business, but they're also personal friends. And I've seen them over many years transition their life multiple times to reach different goals. Both of them have started in one direction and followed through and changed directions a few times, as have I. And I think that's important to talk about. I think my first topic I wanted to bring up, which I put it in the banner, which was this, that success is a moving target, right? It's something different at different stages in your life. And I'd like you guys to talk about that. Jim, I'd like to start with you. Man, and I was talking to Jim on the dive trip, and I said, "Jim, you have done so many things in your life. I think you need to write them down." He's like, "Dude, I don't care about that. I'm not bragging." And it's really not about bragging, but sometimes it's inspirational to people. And Jim, I'd like you to talk about how, not necessarily exactly what you've done, but how you've changed. You've had a moving target on what success is for you personally, right?
Oh, well, yeah, without a doubt. And, some of it is by design, and some of it is opportunity that presented that I never really expected. But sometimes when you see those new opportunities, you just kind of roll with it. When the door opens, you walk through it and see what happens. And I do that more now. I've always been fairly conservative in my decision making process, and making decisions and moving slowly sometimes. I'm trying to do better about that, but
Well,
yeah.
that's
So
funny you say that because you and I and are very different in that aspect. You want to really know all the details and then make a decision. I'm like, I kind of know a little bit of details and make a decision and try to figure out more details on the back end. And you and I agree a lot of times, but we come to the same place differently. And I think there's no necessary right or wrong way, because sometimes, you're like, hey, see, I told you guys. And then sometimes we moved you past your comfort zone and there was a good thing out there. And so on that, just to clarify on your moving target success, how many businesses have you run and how many iterations of Jim Brewer has there been?
So my first real adult job, after delivering newspapers and working at McDonald's, was as a firefighter. And I was in the fire department. I was back in the late 70s, where we were having an energy crisis, and our chimney sweeping industry was really getting kind of a rebirth. If you know anything about firefighters, they all work a part-time job. I hadn't figured out what my part-time job was yet. I really loved my job in the fire department and started doing chimney work as a sideline. And it just kind of kept growing and drawing me in, if you will. So I went, I started sweeping in 78, and in 83 made the move from part-time sweep to full-time sweep. And that's when I really started getting serious about growing my business. And the other thing I was seeing was that the gas fireplace boom was starting, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I got into learning about gas systems and stuff. Um, I did that a lot, and then a few years later, uh, actually maybe about the same time, the National Chimney Sweep Guild was looking to create a certification manual, and I got involved in that process. Uh, they contacted me, and I started helping out with that, and that led to a pretty long involvement with both the NCSG and CSIA. And that whole side of training and helping out the industry was not really something that I sought out, but I saw an opportunity and something needed to be done, and I got involved, and that's been a big part of my life.
Well, it sounds like to me, listening to you, success is you becoming an expert in something and then helping other people with it. Like if I boiled it down, as John Meredith says, to find gravy, you learn something and then figure out how to help others with it, from being a paramedic to being a chimney guy to doing NFPA and serving as a volunteer for a lot of these organizations. Is that what success is to you?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I like to help people. Tomorrow I'll be on duty 12 hours as a paramedic, helping people in our community. Uh, last week I was training new guys, and spent all week doing that. And I love helping people, you know, out of bad situations and into better situations. And uh, so, yeah, and I have an ability. I think, everybody has kind of a unique gift. I can read stuff, including, boring technical stuff, and turn around and explain it in a way that most people can understand it.
Yeah.
I think that's been kind of a gift of mine, and that really came from my dad.
Mhm.
My dad was a really smart guy, but at the end of the day, he was down to earth and communicated very well. He always taught me that communication was important, and his favorite saying was, "Words matter."
Right. Yeah. I love that. So, Alan, back to the topic. Success is a moving target. You've gone through a bunch of iterations just since I've known you. You've moved so many times and physically moved and moved jobs, and even inside your own sales business. Once you develop that, you've moved it. So
Yeah.
t- so talk about it being a moving target for you.
Well, I think when I go back and, there's a book in my head somewhere, it needs to start getting written down. But I go back, from the time I was 9 years old, and my first business was at a flea market selling, baseball cards, and I knew that I had the ability to sell at a very early age. And I've always said the first chapter of my book is going to be called For a Quarter More, because I spent 5 years working at a movie theater, and that was our line, man. For just 25 cents more, you can get the large, you get twice as much. And everybody said yes. It was like the first upsell, right? And then if you know who I am, I've had multiple businesses. I've built them, I've sold them. And, and then I always knew I had that kind of desire to have business, right? And then I got into a job, right? I worked into a job for 15 years, and then moved into to this new iteration of our business. And so, if you had asked me 10 years ago, where would I be today? I would have bet $1 million that wasn't where in a hotel in Knoxville, Tennessee, talking to Jim Brewer and Mark Stoner. And so, I think,
So success is really, you've lowered the bar a lot.
it's one of those things that when I started this business, I had a 5-year plan. I'm on year 3 of that 5-year plan, and I knew it was going to be a lot of travel, right? I knew I had to prove concept that the sales strategies and techniques that I teach are applicable regardless of person, market, skill set, money, all those types of things. And so, I'm now at the point where I think that and who knows, the economy's rocking, right? I mean, I would like to say that the majority of our successes are from process and strategery, right? But there could be an economic impact to that as well. But now I'm at the point now where my wife gets so sick of me saying that, I travel 250 days a year, because it's just the truth. Like, everybody talk, guess what? He travels 250 days a year. We get it. But that's not sustainable, right? So now I'm at a point in the business where success to me is not so much generating profit and revenue and getting out in front of people. It's figuring out a way to get more home time, get more family time, figure out how to do more things remotely, virtually. The whole reason I started the weekly sales videos, and we're doing masterminds and things of that nature. So I think it's always moving, right? Like there's a financial piece. There is it's classic work-life balance, right? I mean, it's right now my work-life balance scale is so far to the work. It's like 90% work right now, and that's only sustainable for a short period of time. But when you have a plan and your family agrees to that plan, like, hey, this is going to be tough for 5 years, but right, here's why we're doing it. Here's the end goal. I think it can work. So.
So it's very similar for me. I remember when I started the business, the first level of success was literally getting my equipment. Like, I remember when I had to go to the bank, I had some money saved, but I needed some more money. And I felt very successful when the equipment arrived, and I looked at it, I'm like, wow, I'm in business.
Yeah.
And then I remember another level of success was when the phone rang. It wasn't just my friends and family wanting chimney sweeps. Somebody was willing to pay me for chimney sweeping. And that felt like successful. If I could just get people to start calling me, and I got busy, my schedule got busy. And I remember reading the article about, Mother Earth News, everybody talks about it, and it showed a little breakdown of the graph. If you could sweep 3 chimneys a week, make an extra $500 a week or something like that, or $250 a week. And at the time that seemed like a lot. And I'm like, and if you could do 5 chimneys a week, what that would be a month. It literally showed that breakdown.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be rich. I mean, that was success. If I could reach somebody else's level that said it in a magazine, I would be happy. Like that was my level. And then, but the level, it just keeps moving, right? The target just keeps moving. And so for me to talk about what success means to me changes even for me. Like, in the business, it'd be great. I remember the day that I wanted to try to get out of a truck and hire people to do the work. God, well, that's just those words alone said, I remember looking at Jim Brewer's article, and I talk about it all the time because it's such a big moment of my life when I saw a guy, I did not know Jim, and I saw a target of success in my mind that gave me something. He was a paramedic, he was scuba diving, he was skydiving, he was living the life that I did not have. I was a young guy with 2 kids, divorced, broke, a business that I had to work my tail off on. And I see this guy sitting out here going, hey, this is what we did. Now, did Jim ever brag about it or think he's successful or go look at me? No, he's just saying, hey, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so, Jim, by the way, I wish I knew who said this, but Jim said, they said, Jim, write it down, which is your life, Jim Brewer. You don't realize how many people you can affect, not by bragging, by just saying this is a possibility. And to me, when I put stuff out there, I hope people don't think I'm bragging. Hopefully it's something that says, hey, by the way, if you like this is kind of what we're doing out here. It gives you a goal. And I think I go mostly on inspiration. When I watch somebody else, it inspires me to do something else. And
I'll tell you, Mark, where I see this the most with technicians that I train are when I deal with the top dog in a company, and that top dog would not even be the bottom dog in some of the companies that I train, right? And so, their ego and their confidence is at this amazing level because I sold $700,000, whatever the number, doesn't even matter, right? And I was like, yeah, cool, man. I mean, like I just got done working with a guy last week that sold 2.1 million last year, and all of a sudden their brains are like, you don't even know what's possible because you kind of live in the bubble of the environment that you're in, and so
yes,
when we
live in that bubble.
So when we start to expand people's ceilings and let them know that really there are no ceilings, I've told multiple clients this. I was like, if I ever get just completely bored with business, I would love to go spend 1 year with a company, and everybody's like, "Oh, me," like, and just sell for a year just to see what that ceiling. I mean, I truly believe I could sell $4 or $5 million a year in the right setup in the right environment. And I got people that are bragging about selling 400,000 and 500,000, which is great for them in that moment in that company. But if you're excited and that's success to you, the possibility of $1 million or $1.5 million or $2 million is so far off the radar, you'll never get there because you can't even believe it's possible. And so when you start to say, change the questions, right? Oh, well, how did he sell 2.1 million? What is he doing that I'm not doing? Is it, oh, he must be in a market that's different. Oh, he must be, their price, their competition's different. That all of a sudden the blame comes in, the excuses come in, all the limiting behaviors of why someone else is doing something that they're not doing, and you're asking the wrong question. So,
so there's 2 sides of people. There's people that will cheer you on and are super happy for your success. There's another set of people that are not happy for your success, or they don't want to have to go to that level, so they have an excuse. So that's not one, it could be that's not what success means to them, but they could also just get in their brain and go, they have whatever excuse it is to make them not have to strive and to push for it. Let me read a couple comments real quick. Somebody, I wish I don't know why this does this, Facebook user. I enjoy y'all's reads. Appreciate that. I think that was on Facebook. We were posting stuff. But I remember one level of success was I can remember when I could put more than $3,800 in the bank. That's so important. I remember when I took $900 to the bank one time in cash. And I'm like, look at this. Like, you guys have monetary numbers like that you remember, like now that's like it was a hallmark moment?
I remember the first time I sold a full day of sales training. And I started doing the math, and then I took my calculator out and did it by the hour, and then I did it by the minute. And I was like, holy cow! I just sat here on my phone for 1 minute and made this dollar. I was like, I'm ripping these people off. No, it's all about the level of value that you bring, right? But for sure, yeah, no, for sure.
What about you, Jim? You remember a number or a thing that you felt, okay, this is going to work, or this, I feel like I'm successful?
Yeah, I remember when my wife and I were dating right before we got married, and I got hired in the fire department, and I was super excited because my salary, it was, they paid us an annual salary, but it worked out to about $200 a week. And I thought that was big money. Yeah.
Right. It moves. So Chad Murray says, I'm not the same guy or business just since 2019 to June of 2021. I know that's a fact about Chad. He came on, he already had a successful business, and he's gone through multiple changes. And so for Chad, for everybody, success is a moving target. I have a funny story about being super broke on vacation that me and my son always tell, because this is kind of a bottom line for me, as like we just went on a couple week vacation scuba diving. Don't look at what things are costing, just able to just live and have fun on the vacation without worrying if the check's going to bounce, if the card's going to work and all that. But I remember one time me and my son were skiing, and we were, and it was all I could do to take us on the ski trip, but I wanted to take my son on the ski trip. We got done skiing, and we're trying to look for a place to eat. I saw Mountain Grill. It was at the ski resort. It was at the top of the mountain that we were skiing on. So took the chairlift up, went over to it. And when we went up to it, I opened the doors, and it was like a heavy door. I'm like, this doesn't seem like a Mountain Grill. Like you get in and get some burgers or pizza or whatever. And then we open the next door in, and there's people kind of dressed up, and I'm in my ski stuff. I got my goggles on, like I'm sweaty. I got my bibs, got my ski boots clunking in. And he's like, "Can I take your coat?" And I'm like, "What?" So I said, "I think we're in the wrong place." He goes, "No, we have skiers all the time. Come on in." We came in, and I looked at the menu, and everything was a la carte. And when everything's a la carte, it's going to be a la expensive. And so like a steak was $80 and the baked potato was $16. And I looked down the list, and I'm like, barley soup was about all we could afford. It was $8 a bowl. I said, "Man, we're getting barley soup and water. You good with that?" He's like, "Barley soup it is,"
Nice.
I remember just feeling, we remember that day because it was a moment that I did not want to relive. One, I was embarrassed to be there in a bad place, and two, I was completely broke. And I'm like, I don't like this. I'm going to not be here again. So couple more things. Chad says, my level went down then as always, it worked out, and I came to 10 steps ahead. Right. He kind of dipped, and it was literally happening to me again right now. So Jason, so thank you, Jason. If he's the one, he listens every week. Thank you, Jason, for listening. So I think, again, I also have one more quick story. I remember me and Jim were sailing one time, and we're on a kind of a nice boat. We're sailing in the Caribbean. We're in a race, and we're in St. Bart's. And Jim, I think you're going to know what I'm going to say. We were all pretty successful business guys. We're with Meredith and some other guys that have some big construction companies, and we do okay. But you talk about being on the low end of the broke. I mean, you sail into St. Bart's, and I mean, we are nothing. We couldn't even afford the crew that runs these other mega yachts. Like, you remember feeling that level of you guys? They called it. You guys are just sailors. Like, you remember that moment, Jim?
Oh yeah, yeah. They in St. Bart's they measure yachts by how many helipads there are on the yacht.
Yeah.
Like, can you land one helicopter or two or three? Yeah, yeah. It's a whole different level.
And so my point is, there's always other levels. And back to what success is, you can't really measure it by other people. I think you can have other people as inspiration, but you can never measure your success by that. I think we're all successful by someone else's standard, right?
That's right.
Everyone is. You are probably, by someone's standard, already very successful, but yet you may not feel it. So you have to figure out how to feel that and how to live it.
There was a really good, I think it was a Facebook meme or it was an email article, something I was reading that talked about that you will never, or you'll rarely be insulted, or you'll rarely be brought down by people that are higher than you. Right.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that all the people that want to criticize and that want to judge and that want to question and want to do all these things are typically the people that haven't made it to where you're at. And it's very easy for them to do that. But the people that are truly on your side, and Mark, I mean, yeah, I've told you many times, I mean, you're a mentor, a friend, a coach, and all that stuff to me. But it's always, if there is, and criticism is not even the right word. It's constructive criticism, right? It's like, what are you doing? How can I help you? It's never, why are you doing that, right? It's always worded in a way. So if you find yourself surrounded by people that are quote unquote questioning what you're doing and your success, you need to look at where they are in relationship to you. And I just find it really fascinating that I've been around a lot of successful people, and the people that I really enjoy being around are all the people that lift me up and that are at a level that I want to be at, or that that we're similar levels. So, but man, the moment you start saying, oh my gosh, you're there or you're this, man, you've lost it. One quick story on that is, I can't remember, I think it was a Heat Shield conference, probably 7 or 8 years ago. But I remember John Meredith talking about, he liked to sometimes just spread the wealth a little bit, whether it could be at a restaurant, wherever the moment, struck him, he would leave a pretty substantial tip to, maybe a $100 or $200 tip on a $50 meal. Right. And just, random. And so I've taken that on, and I do that now quite a bit. Like at least every couple of months, I'll leave like $100 tip on something that's, the level of, I've had tears. I mean, I've literally had tears. Like you never know what that person's going through. You don't know their story. You don't know their struggle. You don't know anything. I've had people tell me this is exactly what I needed. Like God sent you. And it's like no, I've been put into a position of where I've been blessed that I can now help bless other people. And today, Darren Bebo had a coworker, a GoFundMe. I don't know who this person is, but I love that I'm in a position that I can help that person. Your coworker, or not coworker, but your competitor, when they flooded. I didn't know who that person was, but I love that I can help them. So, to me, when I look at what success is my ability to lift other people up and to be able to do that, whether it's knowledge, money, time, that's what empowers me to keep going. And so no matter what the financial bar is or what the time bar is am I doing things to help others? And if I am, then man, I know I'm on the right path.
You led perfectly into my next question for you guys. And Jim pick it up from here. What's your definition of success? And maybe you've never totally defined it, but if you had to define it, what do you think it is for you?
Well, for me, I kind of feel like I'm there now. Um, and I had a good business for a lot of years. I sold the business, and fortunately, if I don't want to work, I don't have to work. Um, I'm never going to buy a yacht with a helipad on it, but um, but I can afford to go charter a boat and sail around them. Um, so to me, that's pretty successful.
Right.
And unless the economy blows up and something crazy happens like in the 1920s, then I'm okay, and my family is going to be taken care of, and I'm looking to spend more time with the family, and yeah, that feels like success to me.
I always feel, I think my definition of success, and I've said it for years, is I just want options. I think when I have options in life,
Mhm.
and I have the ability to give and do to what my heart feels like I can do, like then that makes me feel successful. And this last week again we were scuba diving in Belize, and these guys that were down there that were helping us were really great people. They were kind of broke because they hadn't been able to work in months, and really it's been bad for a couple of years since COVID. And these guys were hurting. These guys were teaching us, and their scuba boots were ripped out. And the one guy that was a dive master, he had a big hole in his BCD where it just ripped, and he had tears in his eyes because he didn't have the money to replace it. And I'm like, I just gave him all my stuff. I
Yeah.
gave the one guy my BCD that it was a pretty expensive piece. I gave it to him. The other guys lost his fins, and he was awesome. He helped us all, help my wife, and I gave him my fins. And these guys were like, and to me that felt like
Yeah.
success. And like they literally, the one guy started crying. The one guy I gave my BCD, he started tearing up. He's like, I can't believe you would do this for me. And man, isn't that like what we're supposed to do, right?
That's
It's
awesome.
it, man. It's absolutely it. I mean, I don't want to get into faith and all that stuff, but I'm Christian, and I pray every morning, pray every night, and one of parts of my prayer is to pass the knowledge that God's given me on to others to help them empower their life. And so as we, I remember this lady will never be watching this. Her name is Julie Smirk. She was one of the first people I remember training probably 9-10 years ago, and outside of Chimneys completely. And I remember her coming to me after working with her and saying, she's like, I just bought a house. And she said, I never would have been able to do that without the skills that you transferred to me, and the money that I've been able to make using that. And that was like a defining moment. She'll never know that. I probably need to tell her that, but that was a defining moment that felt so good to me, that knowledge that I was able to pass along to someone allowed their life to be better, to own a home. I mean, does it get any better? Like, I'm gonna like probably tear up right now. Like and so I knew that was the path, right? Like I knew that's what I want, and I hear it all the time. I get messages all the time, Alan, I'm making more money than I've ever made. We just had a kid, we just got a car, and I know as owners of people that manage, especially you, Mark, 50 people plus, like you hear those stories all the time that you're enabling these people to do that. And to me, that's really what it's all about. I've lived since I was very young, the work hard, play hard mentality. I mean, I like to have fun. If you've been through one of my classes, the very first slide says on there, if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. Now, it's not saying we don't have bad days, we don't have problems we got to solve, but I just got off a call before we had this SureFire Live, and I was talking to a guy. He's like, "Man, you've got to be exhausted traveling as much as you do for as long as you have." And I was like, it's getting there. I said, but it's still fun. I was like, the moment it stops becoming fun is the moment that I just saw Kevin Russell.
I did too. Kevin.
I love you, Kevin, man. Happy belated birthday, man. But yeah, I mean, it's it's just all about what do you do if you're in it just for yourself, man. I mean, that's got to be a lonely place to be. But the more you can help others and lift others up, that's what it's really about. So to me, when you ask what's the definition of success, that is how many people can I help. And if you remember 2 years ago, I think it's the most commented Facebook post that I made was my goal was to improve 500 lives this year. That was like my New Year's resolution, is I want to physically improve 500 lives. And that was the goal that I went through with whether it was in the field, whether it was a class, whether it was a personal mentorship. And when you can do that, it's a greater empowerment than anything you can ever get on your own. So.
Speaking of a success and a guy that helps a lot of people, Kevin Russell on here has a Warrior Horse program. And Kevin, thank you for commenting, because he said he helped change 5 last weekend. So Kevin, guess what? You're going to be a guest on SureFire Live coming up. Thank you for giving me content for coming up. So we contact you after the show. We need to talk about what you're doing, because talk about success. So a couple more comments real quick. Chad said, Alan, with the empowerment comment is the most powerful comment yet. To get to the point to help is so rewarding. Yeah, completely. Yeah. And then I think this is Jason. Y'all have a good night. Emergency call came in, owner operator, but I'm blessed to run calls after my team who works super hard all day is home. And I'm right there. I can't see the rest of it. I'm right there, right there every day. So, to that point, I remember that point in business that I believe this is Jason that typed that. I remember that point, and that also felt like success too, that I was needed that much to go fight that fire, to go help that customer. Like, I think it just plays into the point that you can't define your success by somebody else's success, but you can be inspired by them to change your goals. And I think we need them. I think all of us on this call, and even the people listening, are driven for something greater, but it's not, and it feels like it's really not necessarily to help us. It's really to give us more power to help others. Like the more ability to help others that's the feeling for success, to me.
One thing that's just so, to put this into perspective, is I don't even know how to say this guy's name, Dan Blazarian. I don't know if you know this guy. He's like a billionaire kind of guy, like just a absolute idiot of a person from what I can tell. I don't know him personally, but he's just a party guy. And I used to own a poker business and used to live in that whole poker world. And I saw an article just literally yesterday that he's playing in a $100 million poker tournament. Right. Yeah. I mean, just to put that in, like, just to buy in $100 million just to play in this game. And, for most of us, I mean, that number is like not even a lifetime potential, even like a tenth of that. But the fact that this guy could just so easily put that into one game of skill, chance, however we want to work, that there's so many levels of success that.
Well, to him, that look at me, look at what I can do thing is his level of success. Now, some of us may go, oh, hell no, that's not me. I hate that. But for him, he doesn't care what we think.
That's
to
right.
him, that's his driving force. And to me, I tend to get along better with people who are givers. Like I'm naturally, John Meredith is a big mentor. You guys, like, I'm drawn to people who are givers versus people who are takers, and there's both in this world, and you got to kind of pick a side, I guess. But so here's one interesting stat I read: 80% of Americans believe they are achieving success according to how they define it.
That's awesome.
And
That's a
so
pretty
Jim, well, go ahead. What were you gonna say, Jim?
that's a pretty positive statement, you know.
Mhm.
To me, 80% of the people think they're successful.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal.
Right, it is, and we are. I mean, right? I mean, so if again to the previous statement, you are successful, especially compared to someone else's standards. Like all kinds of on all levels, just your health, where you're born, what you're doing, what you're able to do, where you live, like what you like. So many people wish they could be. We are all successful. If you're able to watch this on the internet at your home that's got a roof over your head and you're listening to this,
That's right.
you're successful. The people that are watching us, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily satisfied or you're done. Success doesn't, again, to the moving target thing. So it's going to move for me too. It moves. I remember, well, so uh, if people don't feel successful, let's just say with that, when I didn't feel successful in life, um, it was always because I felt like I wasn't meeting my potential.
Hmm.
Like when I felt not successful in music or in chimneys, I was looking at something else and go, man, my life sucks. I can't afford barley soup. I should be able to. I think that's always when I felt the least successful. Just talk about when you didn't feel successful in life, because that's as big a driver as anything.
Man, I tell you, I'm going to admit this on live television here. I've got some guilty pleasures that include playing this Phase 10 game on my phone. Right, and it used to be Angry Birds, but now it's moved to Phase 10. And when I get up in the morning, I play my 3 free rounds of the Phase 10, and I I'm whatever, having a cup of coffee, and but it's a solid 15-20 minutes every day, I'm and I've been to enough Mark Stoner talks that he talks about what do you do with your time and all this stuff. Are you watching crap? Are you watching TV? And I'm like, no, I'm playing Angry Birds. Like, so the point of that, and obviously in jest, is that you've got to have that balance, right? You can't always be in just like crazy work life mode. I mean, you got to have fun. You got to, like, otherwise, what are we doing this for, right? I mean, and so. But when you talk about not being successful, I think you hit it right on the head, is that whenever you look, it's like, I should be able to do that, but I'm not. like, why am I not able to do that? I look back, my wife and I had the most amazing 20-year anniversary trip to Italy, and I saved for 10 years for that trip. It's the God's honest truth. Like, on our 10th anniversary, we agreed to put $100 a month into a savings account. And so we had 12 grand when it was done after 10 years. And we took that trip, and it was an amazing thing. And I just go back and look, like, now we're in a total different place in life. Like, if we wanted to take that trip again, we could do it much faster than 10 years. But back then it was like, that was a goal. That was success to us. So it may take us 10 years, but we're going to do it.
Yeah. So Jim, when did you not feel successful? What makes you, because to me, that's a driver. That's the pain is a driver to not feel the pain.
Yeah, I've always, been trying to help people, and like tomorrow I'll be doing the medic thing, and that makes me feel successful. When I can help those people, I'm in a position to do it. I do it because I love it. I don't get paid for that. But wow, not successful.
Jim doesn't know what that feels like. He's
Like, what is
you know, I have to go back a while before. I mean, there's been some years or times in my business where things weren't going well. And of course, as the company owner, you feel all of that. So, yeah, maybe some moments in business when I didn't feel successful because things weren't going the way that I thought they should go.
Well,
And
yeah,
that just gets you motivated to fix it.
For me, and I talk about it, I wrote a book about it. My biggest crash when I couldn't pay my employees, I couldn't pay myself, and I couldn't pay my vendors and my anything, and I was completely broke. Was the time clearly I felt the most unsuccessful, but it was also a line in the sand that I will not be here again, at least with the same mistakes. I might make new mistakes and get there, but I that moment of not success, like literally I say it all the time. I was running the worst chimney company in the country. I know I was. I had every problem out there. And that that feeling of totally broke, no, can't make payroll, can't pay myself, my family is, I can't do anything, I've done everything wrong, was the biggest driver to fix it. uh, to know how, because I think it helps to know the other side of success too. For you personally, the total failure. Not that you want to fail a lot. I don't really like that fail often and fail early and fail often. I think failure can be a very bad thing, but it can teach you. But not. I know people that fail and fail and fail, and that's not good. But I think failure is on the same side of success.
I feel this is going to be one of those Larry Wingett, Scott McCain moments where we could have different opinions on the same thing and still make the same point. But Maxwell's book was one of the most empowering books to me, with a failing forward of look. I mean, it certainly wasn't Jim level of needing to analyze things, but I was certainly I was more cautious in making decisions than I am today, because I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? That's literally my outlook on that. And was funny from a sales perspective. Actually, a cheap plug on I literally just did a Rush Profits Weekly video, the Monday Morning Meeting Minutes, on on what happens when you're in a sales slump, right? And what is a slump to you? Like, is that to me, and this is going to come across wrong, but if I go 2 or 3 days and I don't sell something, like I feel like something's really, really wrong. Like I'm so used to selling something every single day in the field that if we go through 9, 12, 15 appointments and something hasn't closed on the spot, I really start to have doubts and question, like, what is happening? What am I not doing? So I did a whole episode on what do you do when you're in those situations? And the reality is, most of the time you start blaming randomness, you start blaming bad luck, you start blaming things that are out of your control, whether it's economy, my prices are too high, my competition's doing this, and you start to make all these excuses that then make you change your behaviors that made you successful in the first place. Yeah. And that's when you truly get into a slump, right? Yeah. And so when you start talking about when you're not successful, like, are you doing, trust the process, right? Are you doing the things that you need to be doing to be successful? Or are you now trying to circumvent to shortcut success? And as soon as you do that, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're guaranteed to not be successful.
Yeah. There's no shortcut to success. And usually failure to succeed is failure to plan.
Amen.
Without a plan and a goal, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, I'm not a great planner. I mean, that's not I'm a great implementer, but I'm not a great planner.
I can help you in that department.
You're getting a little, the world's getting a little taste of what a SureFire meeting looks like. We've got Stoner over here that's like, hey, how far can we run? How fast can we get there? And then Jim's over here with the like I don't think the brakes are on tight enough, and then like me and Jake and Cliff were all hanging out in the middle, like, yeah, I see where you're coming from.
That's very true. Chad Murray says not a successful feeling in 2015. All your estimators are starting their own businesses. And Chad has a funny saying, because we talk about people starting their own business, which is, so everybody's going to have to go through that. If you got your own business, somebody's going to start their own business once you teach them how to do it. Just, it's a factor of growing a business. And he says all your estimators are starting their own businesses. And he said that then some people quit those guys and started their own businesses. And he said he had grandbabies. Maybe businesses. You're being sued in an employee overtime lawsuit, IRS audit, and you left the company to have to come back to save it. So, that's an interesting point that all those things kind of built up, and Chad at the end has to look back and go, what part of this was my fault? And I think that was the healthiest thing I ever did when I crashed it was, it's my fault. I could blame, yeah, 2008 was a terrible economy, and I had employee drug issues, and I had, theft, and I had all these things happening. But at the end of the day, it was this guy that I shave with when I do shave with, as Dave, what's his name, says, it's the guy you shave with every morning. Well, if you turn around and look at it, yeah, Chad says it right here. It's all him. It is all you. That's the healthiest thing you can do. And also it feels successful. Jim, I know for a fact that there was a time in your business years ago when you had built it to a level, you had kind of been able to pull back from it, and it was very successful. And then a couple little ingredients in the business changed. You had some management change. You had a death. You had a guy that not the accident, but other things happened, and the business all of a sudden was a different business. And you had to. I saw you jump back into a truck. One of the most successful guys in the chimney business jump back, and you didn't have to. You were already really financially set, but you jumped back in to fix it. I mean, I remember that. I remember that time.
Oh, for sure. And it's just, every business has kind of a evolution to it, and it has good seasons and bad seasons. And yeah, we'd had a lot of things going really good for a long time, and then I had a partner for a while, and that was helping a lot, just having somebody to share responsibility with. And he passed away kind of unexpectedly. I had another fellow who we thought was going to be a lifer there, was our GM. He left to go to some other things. So yeah, I had to get back in the thick of it, and create a plan to get back to where we'd been. So
I think the important thing I learned from watching you do that, Jim, was at any point in business, and Chad mentioned it too, and I've mentioned it, everybody talks about, building a business that doesn't need you at all. And I think that can be good, but I don't know that it's permanent. It always needs your touch, and it always needs a little bit of you in it. When I was gone for 2 weeks, I came back and it was like, arrow, 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 and everybody's coming at me with all these things. They didn't bother me on vacation, which I liked, but they had things that were waiting. And then a lot of them were sorry. They said, I'm sorry that, we had all this that we need to talk to you about. I'm like, you know what? I don't hate it. I said, at least I do like that you let me take the vacation, but I also like that I'm still very relevant in this business. If Meredith that he took like a 6-month hiatus or 1 year, and came, it used to have a line of people lining up to talk to him outside of his door. And when he came back the once last time, nobody needed him at all. And he said, man, that was a weird feeling in your own business. And I think there's a balance to the business to have a touch or get out of it. Selling it's one thing, but if it's yours and you're not there, I think it can be I've never seen it totally work like forever.
What's really interesting is take revenue out of it. What would you say the average chimney company is in the U.S. size? I mean, we can talk money, we can talk employees, but like $1 million, 2 million, 3 million.
I'd say $1 million is actually high. I mean, the average from some of the surveys I've seen and done, the average is a 3-person operation. So
okay.
$500,000 probably.
So obviously, if you took a person who is comfortable running a 3-truck business and put them into your business, I mean, they'd be eaten alive. But just like you could go, both of you guys could go right now, and you could start a business and build it to $2, $3, $4, $5 million, and you would feel very little stress, very little pain, because you've been there, you've done it, you know how to do it, you know all the challenges that are happen at the different levels that they happen. There's if you think about how many people are trying to get to 1 million, how many people are trying to get to 2 million, trying to get to, they're at 2, they're trying to get to 3 trying to get to 4, where you guys could come in and you could do that with your eyes closed. So why are people spending 5 years, 10 years trying to get to that level when there's already a path that maybe they don't, assuming they want to get there, right? I mean, I think that's a big key. Do you want that kind of business? But if you want a $3 million business, a $5 million business, why are you not going to the people that have already done that and say, all right, man, you know what you're doing here. And this is the idea of coaching and consulting and all those types of things. It blows my mind, the people that I work with that struggle at I can't get over the $2 million hump. I can't. Well, who are you talking to that's where you want to be? Right. And I think that was a big part of when we started SureFire. That was we originally joked that we want to download Jim Brewer's brain. That was like the original joke. Like, you got, write it down, Jim, right? You've got so much knowledge in that brain. And then it was like, hey, Mark knows business. I know sales. We got people that know all these other things, and let's put it out there because we've been there and we know what it's about. But I'm still amazed to me, and I don't mean this to be insulting in any way, but people that are struggling at a certain level when all they need to do is to reach out to the people that have been through those barriers before them.
Right. You always go to the level, it's the Peter principle. You fail at the level of your expertise or at the level of your knowledge. So the answer is go get different knowledge. A lot of people, it's an ego thing. They don't want to reach out. They want to, they're, whatever their level is, they want to be good at. But there's a bunch of people that they just need a few little tweaks. They've got so many, I consulted with a company a couple weeks ago they've been following us. They got all the right parts. They just weren't quite aligned right. They did this, they bought that, they got this program, they're doing this, but they weren't really aligned right for total success. And when I came in to consult, I'm like, you need to move this person here. You need to do that. You need to implement this that you've already talked about that you didn't implement. Those things will move you forward. And it was like I turned on the lights, but all I did was kind of shuffle the pieces that they already had. But we're closing. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I wonder if and I put thought into this, but I wonder if it's because they feel like they're successful. Right?
No, this guy doesn't. This guy, the reason most time people bring me in because they want something different. They're like, they're hiring me and they're hiring you and they're hiring Jim because they want something different in their business that they think you can give them or I can give them or Jim can give them. They may be successful in some ways, but they're not completed and they know they're still on a journey. So they're like, Mark, come in and give, or I need to come see your business and align these things. But, again, success is kind of a feeling of being, satisfied and fulfilled. And when you're not satisfied and fulfilled, I always have a little sense of not fulfilled, like myself. Like I always have that little sense of, I want to try this new thing. I want to start that new thing. But I can feel as I get older, I'm feeling more and more fulfilled. And I think Jim hit on it. He's kind of ready to plant the flag. Not that he's done, but he planted the flag and said, hey, I have achieved this and I'm ready to leave the battlefield. I might pick another battlefield, but kind of planting your flag at some point. So we're closing in on the end. There's a couple more comments. Let me do them real quick. And I got a final story I wanted to read. Chad says the entrepreneur is used to being the top dog and the know-it-all. They have a hard time adjusting back to learn mode. I said that today, Chad. I said that to somebody that a lot of times the business owner doesn't necessarily want to learn anything. They're used to being the guru, the top dog, the guy everybody comes to. And sometimes they're the hardest people to change or to want to try anything different? Alan and Jim, you guys consult with a lot of people. Would you say what Chad is saying is accurate?
100%. And even in my own, I'll be the first to admit that I would like to think that I am very good at sales and I'm good at sales training and I read a lot about sales. And, I find myself struggling to ask those, what would you do type situations, or how do you handle those, which is what you should be doing, right? It's like constantly, you should always be open to how other people are doing things. So yeah, I think that's 100% that we want to think, especially when was it 500 books? You're an expert in your field. I've easily read.
100.
It's 100.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, then I'm an over.
Yeah. Well, this is a Larry Winget thing. He said if you would read 100 books in your field, you could be considered a world-class expert.
Yeah. So, I've definitely read more than that in sales and those things, but it's still one of those things that when you've got I don't want to change it too much because I know we're running out of time. I had this whole mind-blowing thing happen like 2 weeks ago from one of your guys actually in Milwaukee. And he went through this whole different process around insurance that I had never even considered. And it was the ability to basically double almost every insurance job by getting a chimney back to manufacturer standard. Like, you technically shouldn't be installing a wood stove into a chimney that's not code compliant. And so let's fix the chimney and then put the woods. And I'm like, it was just one of those like, holy cow, you're right. Because if you read every single manufacturer's installation instructions, it's what it says. It must be installed into this type of chimney. And we've always used hey, let's just bypass the damage. And then like, well, what happens if you ever pull that stove out? You no longer have a code compliant chimney. And I was like, man, that's an interesting. I never really considered that. And so that's why his insurance numbers are double everybody else's, because he's doing that. I'm like, man, so that was a thing that I learned. So
yeah. Okay, so there's another comment. It looks like it's from us. This must be Jake. Work takes on different meaning when you have built a business where you can choose to do the tasks that you like and enjoy doing. That's when it becomes more fun and less like work. That's a fact. That's good. I think that is Jake. He must be logged in with us. But for me, I liked sweeping chimneys. I didn't love it. I really like doing masonry work, especially if I had people bringing me the brick and the mortar, I could just lay it. But that was successful. When somebody set up the scaffold and I could just go on top and lay the brick, and everybody else cleaned up the job site and did all that. But then I started enjoying figuring out how to lead people. I enjoyed trying to figure out how to start businesses. Like, to me, a lot of the excitement is in the startup phase and in the really momentum phase. And today I was at our chocolate company, and oh my gosh, there's finished chocolate everywhere. We're running out of space. And we got a guy walked in and placed a huge order for unbelievable amounts of chocolate. I could see our pastry chef, her eyes just kind of glazed over. And to me, that was success. And to her, that was like, oh my God, because she's got to do the work. I enjoy getting the guy to come in the door. Now somebody's got to do the work, and it totally feels different. But I wanted to read the story that I've always found super interesting. It's of the Mexican fisherman. Have you guys heard this story before? You guys ever heard it? So I'm going to read it real quick because I think it kind of puts a button on what we're doing here. And here's the story. An American investment banker was at the pier of a small coastal Mexican village when a small boat with just one fisherman docked. Inside the small boat were several large yellowfin tuna. The American complimented the Mexican on the quality of his fish and asked how long it took him to catch them. The Mexican replied, "Only a little while." The American then asked, "Why didn't you stay out longer, catch more fish?" The Mexican said he'd had enough to support his family's immediate needs. The American then asked, But what do you do with the rest of your time?" The Mexican fisherman said, "I sleep late, I fish a little, I play with my children, I take siestas with my wife, Maria, stroll into the village each evening where I sip wine and play guitar with my amigos. I have a full and busy life." The American scoffed, I'm in Harvard MBA and could help you. You should spend a little more time fishing. With the proceeds, buy a bigger boat, With the proceeds from the bigger boat, you could buy several boats. Eventually, you'd have a fleet of fishing boats. I got to scroll down. Instead of selling your catch to a middleman, you could sell directly to the processor, eventually opening your own cannery. You would control the product processing and distribution. You would need to leave this small coastal village and move to Mexico City, then LA, and eventually New York City, where you could run your expanding enterprise. The Mexican fisherman asked, "But how long will this all take?" To which the American replied, 15 to 20 years. But then what? Asked the Mexican. The American laughed and said, "That's the best part. When the time is right, you can announce your IPO and sell your company stock to the public and become very rich, where you would make millions." Mexican said, "Millions? Then what?" The American said, "Then you could retire, move to a small coastal village where you can sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take siestas with your wife, stroll in the village in the evenings, where you can sip wine and play a guitar with your amigos."
So awesome.
And I've always thought that's really funny, because it's the truth. Because, I was at this diving thing and I talked to Will, who was one of our guys, and he was really wanting to move to America and he was really wanting to try to do business. And I said, you're already in paradise, dude. You get to dive every day. You're in the sun. You have very little stress, But he's like, I do want more for my life. I want more for my kids. And, I have this thing, and he's living, in paradise according to our standards, right? But
that's really the question: is what is your definition of success? I think you hit it. I mean, like, whatever success is to you. One of my favorite Elon Musk quotes. He's like, I've been working 80 hours a week for the last 25 years, and people keep telling me how lucky I am. Right? It's just, it's like, what does that look like to you? And the movie Good Will Hunting, that still sticks out to me. We're in the chimney business. He's like talking about his dad laid brick, and he's like, "What's wrong with laying brick?" Nothing's wrong with laying brick, right? But like, whatever that success is to you that makes you happy, that's what it is.
You have to create your own success, and you have to get out there and work for it, and never stop learning.
I mean, the truth is, and I wrote this down, and here's the final truth: is some people believe that I preach this thing that you have to build a big business, and that's what success is. And I've never said that. I've just said it is what it is for me. And that's all I'm ever, I watch my family have one person operations and solopreneurs, and then something happened to them. They either got sick or injured or something happened and the business went away. And I thought, well, to me, that wasn't success. I want to build something that could work without me. To me, that was success. And here's the bottom line right here. Success is whatever you say it is. And it's the fulfillment of what you're doing and what you want to be is the ultimate thing, because as they say, there's no there. It's a moving target. We're all examples of, there was a target and it moved, and we achieved it, and it moved and it keeps moving. So at some point, then you realize it moves, and you have to move it internally to what success is. And it's really always been that.
It is so true. And if I don't, not you always get a close, but I will tell just one quick story to that. When we were at the business symposium in Nashville last year or 2 years ago, the Blue Collar Gold, I told this story, and I hired John Meredith to help me through some business and coaching decisions. And I went through the perfect day exercise with him, right? Which if you've never done that, you absolutely need to do that. Like, I mean, it starts from the moment you wake up, and literally every half hour, every hour, what does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What do you do? Who are you with?
The details.
The details. And I went through that exercise with him and wrote it down. This huge thing. And what was so cool is, it was literally 9 months later. 9 months later, I lived that day. It was insane. I had moved from Nashville to Florida. I'd bought a condo on the ocean. I woke up with the sunrise and the smell of the coffee, and my wife having bacon, and all these things that I had wrote down. I lived that day, and I called John. I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I'm like literally living my perfect day. And he's like, what's your next perfect day look like? I was like, and so the bar is always changing, right? Like, I mean, but I think that goes to the power of writing things down, the power of, goal setting, all those types of things. But yeah, I mean, once I lived that perfect day planning, yeah, thanks, Jim. Once I lived that, I was like, okay, now I have a new perfect day. And so the bar is always changing. And but yeah, success is what you want it to be, and you'll get there if you're intentional about it. Write it down, plan for it, Jim, and go from there. So it's been fun, Mark.
What about you, Jim? Tell us what is your, how does it work for you? What success, whatever you say I mean, would you agree with that? And what's that like for you?
Oh yeah, everybody defines it differently. To me, success is being able to get out and go sailing and spend time with my friends and family, and yeah, everybody defines it differently.
I think
So
part of it too, though, is you didn't just skip all the other parts of life so you could go sailing and do that. You built an asset, you built some things up so that then that success feels like achievement. It wasn't given to you. Like you could win the lottery and I could give you a sailboat and I could give you that, but I don't think that actually feels like success either. I think success is a combination of achievement, giving back, and then enjoying what you build. I think it's that process is what makes it feel real. I think,
Yep. Just keep working for it, and hopefully you can work towards your goals while doing something you enjoy.
Yeah.
If
that makes it better.
If you enjoy, what you're doing, that just makes it all the better.
Yeah. I hope you get to the point, Jim, where you can get a high quality camera, and just so you can do things like this where you're not blurry.
I don't know what's going on. I have a feeling it may be a teenager sucking up all my internet.
Right, yeah, that may be the case. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate you guys very much.
Thanks, man.
All right. Good stuff.
Oh. All right, guys, that's SureFire Live. It's great to be back. Thank you for having so many people on this feed. We will do it again next week. Looking for topics. I'm definitely going to be bringing Kevin Russell on. I think he's got such an amazing story. Talk about a guy who's really got a calling, and what that looks like, how it manifests itself is very important. With that, thank you so much for joining us. Let's do it again next week. We'll talk to you soon.